Every Memorial Day, it was the same. School was out. We used to sing, school's out, teacher let the monkeys out. We'd go home. My mother would go to the cabinet. She was short. Imagine that. She would take a little footstool, stand up on the footstool, open the cabinet, and get the shoebox out. I've told some of you about this shoebox. It was a great shoebox. She'd get that shoebox out. She'd plug in the hair clippers. She'd turn them on, and they made the most god-awful noise you ever heard. Then she'd remember to oil them, and then they'd calm down a little. That first noise was terrifying because we knew what was next. And then she'd get that plastic attachment that clips on the edge of the hair clippers and start at the back of my brother's neck first, and then mine, and go up over the top, and whatever hair we had fell on the floor. And she'd do another swipe and another until we had the closest screw cut you could possibly have. That was our last haircut for the summer. We lost our hair, and then we did another thing. We took our shoes off. And we kept our shoes off except for Sunday morning. And I don't know what it was, but I always chose to polish my shoes on Sunday morning with black shoe polish just after I put the white shirt on. It turns out even as an adult I do this. Anyway, we'd take our shoes off, and we'd not put our shoes back on until Labor Day. And it was such great fun. We lived in a city, and it was lovely, and we went outside, and we played and played and played. Now, right after Memorial Day, when you run around without your shoes, it's a little difficult. You run more on the grass, less on the sidewalk. More in the soft places, less on the gravelly places. And after a bit, you get a little better. A little better and a little better, so that by about the 4th of July, you're running all over everywhere. And by August 28th, that's today, you could ride your bike to Slope Park in bare feet and drag a foot to keep you from tipping over as you zoom around a corner. You could run down to Bob's Little Super and get a sody pop right down the street there with your bare feet and no problem. You could play kickball at William A. Knott's asphalt playground without a shoe. By August 20th, by the week before Labor Day, right as school is about to begin, good, callous, tough feet. Now, the great thing about that time is that you were very efficient. You could go anywhere, do anything at any speed without a shoe. And in the early days, you weren't very efficient. You were too tender, and there's a lot to be said for efficiency, isn't there? To be tough enough to move forward, to not be slowed down, to keep going, to go everywhere you need to go because you're hardened to it. Not to be distracted by every small thing that upsets you or disturbs your toes or your heels. Surely it is better to toughen up, to be streamlined, to get moving, to don't slow down. I love Jeremiah. That's a lie. I hate Jeremiah. That's not right. I love Jeremiah. I have a love-hate relationship with Jeremiah. Jeremiah gets this theme going, and it comes up over and over and over again in Jeremiah. The theme is this theme that he does in many different chapters, in many verses ways, and in many different forms. In this particular form, he says, stop being callous, pay attention to what is going on around you. He screams it, actually. I don't think this was ever printed to be whispered. It goes like this, listen. Be appalled! Be shocked. Be utterly desolate. says the Lord. Be appalled. Be shocked. Be desolate. A land that you have inherited that was plentiful with fruits and good things has been defiled. This land that you have been given and has been turned your inheritance into an abomination. Be appalled. Be shocked. Be utterly desolate. Jeremiah does it again in later chapters. In chapter 6, he has this wonderful one, my favorite, one of my very favorites. I love Jeremiah. I hate Jeremiah. I love Jeremiah. This one is great. He says, they have treated the wound of my people carelessly, saying, peace, peace, and there is no peace. They act shamefully. They committed abomination, yet they were not ashamed. They did not know how to blush. Jeremiah is distraught at the callousness that he sees. Bad things are going on, and no one is doing anything about it. No one is noticing it. Or if they are, they're treating it lightly. And they're saying, oh my, it's so lovely and peaceful. They're not ashamed. They're not shocked. They're not appalled. They're not disturbed. They're callous. They're toughened up. They are efficient. But they are not attentive. So Jeremiah lets them have it. Over and over and over again in different ways. For 18 years, we've been in active combat in Afghanistan, saying, peace, peace, and there is no peace. Be appalled.
Yes.
Be shocked. Be utterly desolate. That is what Jeremiah says. Jeremiah says it. But I don't always like Jeremiah. Because if I listen too closely to Jeremiah, I don't know about you. If I really pay attention, if I really am appalled, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do it. Frankly, folks, I can't do it. I want to be shocked. I want to be appalled. I want to be faithful to the very thing that Jeremiah says, but I can't do it because if I do it with my Memorial Day feet, I'm stuck and I can't go anywhere. I can't move forward. It hurts too much. It overwhelms me. It wants me to stay on the porch and not go off. I want to shut down. I don't want to see all that's wrong. I want to ignore it. But Jeremiah calls me to something else. Jeremiah calls you to something else. Jeremiah calls us all to something else. Jeremiah names a God who is appalled, who is shocked, who is disturbed, and calls us to be shocked and disturbed and appalled as well, to see how utterly desolate such good things have become. God calls us to this, and Jeremiah names it, and it's distressing and disturbing, and I don't like it. And I don't know what exactly to say to you about it, except maybe just a few short things. First is that Jeremiah is very interested in the people around him being appalled. He wants things desperately to change. And he wants to have them hear it. And he's tormented himself by what he sees. But he's not really talking about the people. He's talking about God. because the people are so well defended, they're so callous that they may not even be able to hear it. But he wants them to remember that none of it has escaped God. That God has seen that there is no peace. That God has known the suffering of God's people. That God knows that justice is not being done. That God embodies it, takes it into God's body, that it hurts God. That God suffers and encounters and is distraught and appalled and distressed and disturbed. And even if we're too numb to feel it, God is not. Jeremiah has a judgment, but if by chance it ever happens that you find yourself in a place where injustice is being done to you, where harm is being done to you, where you are being mistreated, abused, brought down, it might just be good news that it has not escaped the attention of God. The second thing is just a piece of practical wisdom that I found useful, and it is when I'm a bit overwhelmed or a little discouraged with my own callousness, when I'm somewhere between actually feeling it enough that it disturbs me or disturbed enough that it doesn't disturb me, I find it important and helpful to come to this table. I find it helpful to come to the Lord's table, because at the Lord's table, the most remarkable thing happens. Brokenness is at the center of it. Right in the center of it is that everything is not all right. Right at the center of it is that things aren't exactly put together the way they ought to. Right at the center of it is no denial of the troubles of the world. Right at the center of it is a place at the table where you are known as being too callous, or too overwhelmed, as being just who you are. And just who you are, you may eat and be fed. I find the table refreshing. And the last thing I have to say to you is just a little practical wisdom. As you undertake a school year like another, as you live in a world where 17 children have been killed since April, and we seem callous about it, as you live in a world that during the time that I've been speaking, 15 football fields of pristine Amazon forest have been consumed. As you live in a world that overwhelms you, that brings too much of an onslaught of outrage upon you, don't become too callous and don't become too overwhelmed. I recommend a balance. I suggest about June 15th. Not quite as hard as the 4th of July. Not quite as tender as the first day of summer. You will have to be a little tough. But please, join me in trying to avoid becoming so callous that I can't be appalled, I can't be shocked, I can't be desolate. Thanks be to God, who does not forget and knows us as we are.